Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream Sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream Queen Size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal Queen Size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Hope you had a wonderful, long Memorial weekend. Are you ready to get back to work? Ready or not, I don't know that you have a choice. Boy, we had a great weekend. We were over at the lake for the weekend and had a great Memorial Day. Got some late afternoon rain, but overall it was a beautiful, sunny day and just had a chance to kick back and really do nothing. Hope you had a wonderful time with your family as well. As Congress gets back to work after the Memorial Day weekend holiday, it appears that President Trump's big, beautiful bill may have some tough days ahead of it in the U.S. Senate, as Senator Ron Johnson says there are enough Republicans who oppose the bill as the House passed it to maybe stop it. Meanwhile, the House Republicans are praising the bill they sent over to their Senate colleagues, claiming they have tightened Medicaid rules to stop scams that will save taxpayers more than $10 billion. We have some of the new analysis of what was included in the House bill, the version that the Senate is now considering. 60 Minutes anchor Scott Pelley is being ripped for an angry, unhinged commencement speech that he delivered criticizing Trump at Wake Forest University's graduation. And 24 Republican attorneys general are calling on Congress in a letter to pass a House bill that would allow people with concealed carry permits to carry firearms in all states that allow the practice. So we got a lot to cover. Let's jump in.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
All right, folks, the House may have passed it, but don't uncork the champagne just yet because the one big, beautiful bill may have just hit a big, beautiful brick wall in the Senate. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin said it pretty plain this weekend. He said, we have enough to stop the process. That's right. There are enough Senate Republicans to grind this Trump-backed bill to a halt until, in Johnson's words, the president gets serious about spending reduction and reducing the deficit. Now, that was a problem that some of the House members who objected to it as well. They didn't feel like that the cuts went deep enough. So pause right there. This is Ron Johnson we're talking about, one of the most reliably conservative voices in the Senate, and evidently he's not alone. Rand Paul, he's out too, calling the spending cuts wimpy and the deficit impact explosive. That's the word he used, explosive. This is a wake-up call for every Republican voter out there because what we're watching right now is a real-time clash inside the grand old party between those who want to fight the dead monster head-on and those who want to spend like Democrats, slap a Trump sticker on it, and call it America First. So here's the deal. Yes, the House passed the bill by one vote, recall. It was a tight one, remember? That was a win for Speaker Mike Johnson. But even that win came with a ton of friction. Conservatives had to swallow provisions they didn't love. The bill includes tax cuts, border security, and some spending reforms. But it also raises the debt ceiling by up to $4 trillion, and the Congressional Budget Office says it'll add $3.8 trillion to the deficit over 10 years. Now, that's a debatable point. Some are saying no, that the growth of the economy will outpace that. We'll see. But some are saying, yes, you got to listen to the Congressional Budget Office when it says it will add $3.8 trillion to the deficit. And I get it. CBO numbers aren't gospel. Speaker Johnson even blasted them on X, saying that they're using an unrealistically low growth estimate of 1.8%. He called this bill jet fuel for the economy. That's what Treasury Secretary Bessent says, that the growth will outpace it. But hope is not a budget strategy, and economic growth projections don't erase red ink on their own. Let's be honest. Trump wants to go big. Massive tax relief, massive border security investment, massive deregulation, and we need that. But the fiscal conservatives in the Senate are saying we can't pretend the debt doesn't matter just because it's our team doing the spending. They have a point to a degree, don't they? Rand Paul said it clearly. There's got to be someone left in Washington who thinks debt is wrong and deficits are wrong and wants to go in the other direction. He's right. Look, I love what President Trump did in his first term. We got tax cuts. We crushed ISIS. We unleashed American energy. But the debt did climb. We were already blowing through spending caps before COVID ever hit, and now we're more than $36 trillion in the hole. We do at some point have to stop and think about how we get that down, how we pay that $36 trillion off. It's not sustainable. That's not winning. That's a fiscal time bomb. So let's look at the Senate battlefield that's ahead of us. Majority Leader John Thune can only afford to lose 3 votes. After that, it's up to Vice President J.D. Vance to cast the tiebreaker. But even that's assuming every Republican falls in line. And right now, it appears they're not going to. Ron Johnson, Rand Paul are firm no's unless the bill changes. Lisa Murkowski, Jerry Moran, Tom Tillis, they're balking over the clean energy credit repeals. That's a whole other fight. They say stripping out those incentives hurts energy investment and job creation. So now you've got the fiscal hawks in the Senate on one side, the moderates on the other, and Trump in the middle trying to hold the coalition together with duct tape and slogans, says some. I suspect that President Trump, just like he did with the House, he's going to have to make a visit with his buddies over in the Senate. So here's where we're headed. The bill does need some revisions. Not because President Trump's goals are wrong. We got to have tax relief. I support that. I support building the wall. I support reining in entitlement bloat. But if we're going to raise the debt ceiling by trillions, we better get real structural reform in return, not just tweaks and talking points. Because if we're not careful, we're going to wake up in 2 years with more debt, more deficit, and fewer conservatives with the credibility to fight it. This is our time to fight that front as well. Trump is a deal maker. He knows how to negotiate. And this is the time to do it. Not after we've rubber-stamped a 1,200-page monster in the name of party unity. So to Ron Johnson, Rand Paul, and those others holding the line, negotiate. Do like Ralph Norman did on the House side. Force the debate. Talk about it. Force the revisions. This is our moment to draw the line, not just on woke ideology, not just on illegal immigration, but on the national credit card, on our spending. But do like the House did and pass a bill. We cannot afford to do nothing. Fine-tune it. Make it your own. But pass the bill. Why not add to those cuts? Make them permanent. What do you think? Am I off base here? Text me. Email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. So what does the House bill do? It's got some good stuff in it. Big battles over taxes and Medicaid policy may have dominated the headlines, but tucked inside the House Republicans' budget bill, there's some good government changes that supporters say will make sure that the right people are getting some of the benefits that were debated so much. For example, the bill will require federal employees' health benefits program to check marriage and birth certificates to make sure that the people claimed on employees' policies are really part of the family. Now you say, well, isn't that a given? Well, evidently not. It turns out that thousands are not. Booting them off the rolls will save us $1.5 billion over the next decade, according to the Government Accountability Office. The bill, whose official name is the Big One Beautiful Bill, also cancels government payments under Medicaid for gender transition procedures. We shouldn't be paying them anyway. According to one study, nearly 50,000 patients who underwent surgery, a quarter of them were on Medicaid. In the education department, the bill would boot people here on special immigration statuses, like Cuban parolees, refugees, and trafficking victims, from being able to receive student aid. And it also stiffens rules on obtaining Pell Grants, which help fund college for low-income students. Applicants would have to report any foreign income they have so it can be counted towards eligibility. And that's what happens quite often. These foreign students come into the country, as it's been explained to me. They have no income of their own, and they qualify for some of the benefits that we give them, all the while receiving money from mom and dad from who's in another country. They would face higher requirements to be considered full-time students as well. 30 credit hours up to rather than 12. Now, some of these changes are controversial. Back on the checks on the people enrolled in the Federal Employee Health Benefits Program. This won bipartisan support when it was brought up as a standalone bill in the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. The committee said one enrollee built the government out of $150,000 by keeping an ex-spouse on their benefits through 2017 when they had divorced in 1993, simply because the government had not checked them again. They didn't go back and recheck it. The bill also tries to cancel double dipping in Medicaid by doing name and address matching. Republicans said as many as 1.6 million people are improperly enrolled in multiple states at the same time, getting the same benefits. That type of fraud needs to end, and these people need to be prosecuted. Hold them accountable. Right? Am I right? Text me. Email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Are you ready for this? I dropped over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan. No Ozempic, no shots, no meds. Look, I refuse to rely on prescriptions for life, and you probably feel the same. Joey Hudson here. Here's what Big Pharma won't tell you. Your body already makes GLP-1. That's the hormone that fights hunger. PhD helps your body produce it naturally, faster, and without side effects. With PhD, there's no muscle loss, no rebound weight gain, and no cravings. Just real, lasting weight loss the natural way. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. It takes 5 minutes and shows what's really happening inside your body. You'll walk out knowing how to flip your fat-burning switch. No shots needed. Don't trade your health for a quick fix. You can do this without Big Pharma and without the drugs. Plus 15% off when you fully commit to your program, and the PhD Get Results Guarantee. Call now, 864-644-1900. Start today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. By the way, before we move on from talking about the big, beautiful bill and what's in store for it ahead, another thing that is included in the House version, and this was something that, again, South Carolina Representative Ralph Norman had a role in. Some state Medicaid agencies have been made or have been found to be making payments to people who have actually dead. I guess their beneficiaries are receiving it. One part of the bill would require more frequent eligibility checks of eligibility of the Medicaid coverage that was expanded under Obamacare. It would they would check it at least twice a year going forward to make sure that the people are there, they're alive, and that they're still eligible. It's aimed at booting off people whose income rises in the months after they enroll in Medicaid. It makes sure that people are getting the benefits that should be getting them. Now, the Democrats want to say, well, you're going to be canceling people's benefits. Well, if they shouldn't be receiving the benefits, if they're not eligible anymore, or if they're dead, their family shouldn't continue to get them, right? The change starts in 2027. My only problem with it is it should start immediately. The CBO says it could save $3.8 billion over the next decade. Then the other thing that made it into the bill too, Medicaid changes impose a work requirement for what Republicans term able-bodied unemployed adults, and it blocks states from covering illegal immigrants. Did you hear me? Illegal immigrants will not be allowed to receive Medicaid benefits. They shouldn't. They should never have received them. Democrats said the result will be 13.7 million fewer people on Medicaid's rolls, and they shouldn't be. Think about that. Just by requiring work requirements people who are just lazy and want to sit around on the rear end, taking them off of benefits and not allowing illegal immigrants on there. 13.7 million people could come off the rolls. And again, Democrats are going to be yelling and screaming that this is a bad thing. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says Trump and Republicans in Congress are robbing people in order to hand it over to the rich. That's just not going to happen. That's some of her hyperbole, as she is so good at doing. We learned over the weekend, of course, of the passing of Phil Robertson. Duck Dynasty star Sadie Robertson honored her late grandfather in a touching tribute shared shortly after his death Sunday. He was 79 years old. Phil, of course, famous for founding the Duck Commander hunting company that became the focus of his A&E show, had previously battled multiple health conditions, including Alzheimer's. Sadie, who is pregnant with her third child with husband Christian Huff, recalled the final words her Paw Phil shared with her before he died and thanked fans for supporting her family through a very difficult time. She shared online, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come." That's 2 Corinthians 5:17. She said, "As I was sitting with Paw Phil today, I thought about this verse. He has already experienced this on earth, going from dead to alive by the power of Christ." She added, "It was his testimony that changed his life, our family's life, and thousands of others. Now he is experiencing it in fullness. Fully alive in Christ, the new has come. One of the last things he said to me was full strength ahead. Amen." The WOA That's Good podcast host later wrote that she was overwhelmed by the response to her grandfather's passing. She said she felt at peace knowing that he had affected the lives of millions. And he did, didn't he? I mean, he just he just had a way with words, didn't he? She noted online in a video compilation of her grandfather, she said, "I wrote in my post yesterday that he touched thousands, and I can confidently correct that now to millions. I can't stop thinking about how he lived in the middle of nowhere in a small, humble home with no cell phone or computer, and yet his life touched millions with the hope of Jesus." She reflected on how her Paw Phil reminded her of people in the Bible. She said, "Not many live with the end goal in mind as much as he did, and not many chose to spend their lives telling everyone they encountered like he did. He really believed it, and I know that he is alive in Christ fully today." She said, "What a life of authenticity. What a legend." You know, Phil Robertson wasn't afraid of anybody. He wasn't afraid to speak out on his religious beliefs and his political beliefs. He was a strong Christian, strong faith, and that's how he wanted people around him to be. And I never had the opportunity to meet the man. I have some friends who did, and they all say that he was just a great guy, that he was exactly what you saw on TV in person. Sadie's mother, Corey Robertson, announced Phil's death Sunday, wrote online that the family was celebrating that Phil was now with the Lord. She posted, "He reminded us often of the words of Paul, 'You do not grieve like those who have no hope, for we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. Thank you for the love, prayers, and so many whose lives have been impacted by his life, saved by grace, his bold faith, and his desire to tell everyone who would listen the good news of Jesus. We are grateful for his life on earth and will continue the legacy of love for God and love for others until we see him again." Corey noted that the family would participate in a private service. Details about a public celebration of life would be available at a later time. A&E announced earlier this year that the hit show would be revived 8 years after it aired its final episode. Duck Dynasty, the revival, will focus on Phil Robertson's son, Willie, his wife, Corey, their adult children, John, Luke, Sadie, Will, Bella, and Rebecca, and their grandchildren, according to a synopsis that the network had released. The original Duck Dynasty aired for 11 seasons from 2012 to 2017, according to A&E. The show peaked at 11.8 million viewers. That's just amazing, isn't it? That a guy just a simple guy who had a strong but simple faith could reach that many people. We need more Phil Robertsons in the world, don't we? We need more people like that who just are not ashamed of their beliefs. Again, both political and faith. God rest his soul. God bless Phil Robertson. As we were talking about Phil Robertson and his strong faith and his belief that Christians should be bold and we should speak out, just a crazy, crazy situation in Seattle. Now, I don't know why it surprises me that it's in Seattle. If you hold a peaceful Christian rally in a public park in a major U.S. city and you end up being the one blamed when violence breaks out, what's wrong with that scenario? You're not in America anymore. You're in Seattle, Washington. That's exactly what happened at the Cal Anderson Park. A group called Mayday USA held a permitted event, and let me say that again, a permitted event. They did it the right way. They had the city's blessings, or at least their permission, and the assembly was called "Don't Mess with Our Kids." It's part of a multi-city tour where people of faith, parents, and concerned citizens gather to peacefully stand up for children, for the family, and for biblical values. Again, this is something that you could see Phil Robertson being a part of. You know, stuff like that's not exactly controversial unless you live on X or something, I guess, maybe. I don't know. But, of course, it's Seattle. So the local activist crowd shows up, the counter-protesters, including groups like the Democratic Socialists of America. And it doesn't take long before things get ugly. SPD says objects were thrown, people assaulted officers, and arrests were made. 23 people hauled away in cuffs. And guess what? The mayor of Seattle blames the Christians. You heard me. Mayor Bruce Harrell issued a statement basically saying, well, you provoked them. What did you expect? Well, you could have stayed at home. You could have let a Christian group have their conference. Leave them alone. The Democrat Socialists of America didn't have to show up. They weren't invited. The mayor called it a far-right rally, of course, and said that the beliefs of the attendees were inherently opposed to the city's values. Oh, so I guess the mayor is just out and out saying that Seattle doesn't like Christians. He even hinted that the event shouldn't have been allowed in the neighborhood at all. So let's pause right there. This is a permitted, peaceful assembly held in a public park under the First Amendment. And the mayor of an American city is now suggesting that the city should reconsider allowing events like this to happen based on ideological content, based on the faith of the group holding the rally. It's okay for these nut jobs to have theirs, or at least people we would think as being nut jobs. I guess the mayor's okay with the LGBTQ whatever groups out there. I guess the mayor's okay for trans rights groups to be there. But a group of Christians, a group of families, people concerned about the youth, about children, about schools, about family, about biblical values, they're the troublemakers. Folks, this is how you lose a country. And I'm not overreacting here. And this is why what we're doing right now is so important. This is why it's so important that Donald Trump is president and that we have control of the U.S. Congress, albeit just a minute majority. Because this is how close we are to losing our country. This is why yes, we won in November, but the fight is just starting. Because people like this mayor are still out there. It's not just that people are being silenced. It's that now the people are being attacked. The ones being attacked are the ones being accused of the incitement, simply for existing, for praying, for daring to speak in public with a message the activist class doesn't like. We're supposed to listen to them. We're supposed to be patient with them. We're supposed to show them grace. But let the flip side of this show up for a second? Nope. Imagine if a pro-LGBTQ rally was held in a more conservative town and a bunch of rowdy counter-protesters showed up, threw objects, and assaulted police officers, and then the mayor of that town issued a statement saying, well, maybe they shouldn't have held that event there. Their beliefs clash with the values of this community. Imagine if that were the case. They would be standing on their heads. The ACLU would be suing the city. CNN would melt down. The DOJ would launch an investigation. Well, maybe not now. They would have under Joe Biden. Every blue check in America would call it fascism. X would just be standing on their head. But when it's a Christian event being blamed, now again, the people that were part of the Christian group were not the ones who became violent. It was the counter-protesters who became violent. They're the ones who were arrested. So when this Christian event was blamed, where's CNN? Silence. Actually, worse. They were cheering on the opposing group. They were supporting the mayor, or at least they weren't calling him out. They weren't questioning him. Harold's office even blamed anarchists for infiltrating the counter-protesters. Sure. So let me get this straight. Let me understand this. The crowd your city aligned itself with gets violent, and your solution is to blame infiltrators. Then still condemn the people who followed the law and held a permitted event because they simply were there expressing their faith. And now the mayor wants the Parks Department to review the permit process, to investigate whether these people should have been allowed to gather at all. How crazy is this, folks? Again, am I overreacting? Let me tell you something. This is the real threat to democracy, criminalizing dissent and punishing people for speaking unpopular truths in public spaces. Mayday USA's message is clear. Protect children, stand for family, share the gospel. That's it. Nothing hateful, nothing violent, just convictions grounded in faith and biology, science. If that is provocative, if that is now asking for trouble, then the radicals have already won in places like Seattle, haven't they? This is not about safety. This is about ideological gatekeeping. It's about making sure the public square is only open to the left. Everyone else, you're silenced, labeled, or physically run out. And to Mayor Harrell, if your city's values can't tolerate the peaceful presence of Christians in a public park, then maybe it's time to ask whether your values are the problem. You want to talk about violence? Talk about the people throwing punches and rocks. Talk about the 23 arrests. Talk about the officer who needed medical treatment. Don't scapegoat the victims just because their message doesn't match your political platform or the political platform that you think you should support. Was the Christian rally really the problem here? Text me. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. 864-477-5639. While you're at mypillow.com, always use promo code Joey to get the very best possible deal. Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of your life. He's not going to stop simply by creating the best pillow. The best bed sheets you'll ever own are the Giza Dream Sheets. And any size, any color right now is $49.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com or call 800-893-4059. Use promo code Joey. You're going to get them for $49.98. Doesn't matter if it's a queen set, a king set, a split king, a cow kings, any size, any color. Order now, because when they're gone, they're gone. And you can, when your order is over $100, you're also going to receive a $100 in free digital gifts. mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. By the way, speaking of Christian values, Texas would require all public school classrooms to display the 10 Commandments under a Republican proposal that cleared a major vote over the weekend, and it would make the state the nation's largest to impose such a mandate. If passed, as expected, the measure is likely to draw a legal challenge, of course, from some of the people like the mayor of Seattle. The Republican-controlled House gave it preliminary approval with the final vote expected in the next few days. That would send the bill to the desk of Republican Governor Greg Abbott, who has indicated he will sign it into law. The focus of this bill is to look at what is historically important to our nation educationally and judicially, said Republican State Representative Candy Noble, one of the co-sponsors of the bill. Two other states, Louisiana and Arkansas, have similar laws, but Louisiana's is on hold after a federal judge found that it was unconstitutional on its face. Of course, one of those district judges, I guarantee you, and I don't know for sure, but I guarantee you that's probably a Democrat appointed judge down there. Also, Texas lawmakers have passed and sent to Governor Abbott a measure that allows school districts to provide students and staff a daily voluntary period of prayer or time to read a religious text during school hours. Abbott is expected to sign that as well. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Things got a little crazy down on the coast in South Carolina on Sunday night. At least 11 people were taken to hospitals after a shooting Sunday night in the South Carolina beach town of Little River. Horry County Police did not give the conditions of anyone hurt or detail how they were injured in the incident, which happened around 9:30 p.m. Investigators said they were getting reports of more people arriving at the hospital in private vehicles. About 90 minutes after the shooting, police called it an isolated incident and said there was no risk to the community. They did not release any information on possible suspects or what led to the shooting. The shooting happened around a boat dock near the Intracoastal Waterway. Video from the scene showed dozens of police cars and ambulances rushing in and out of the area. North Myrtle Beach police officer responding to the shooting accidentally shot himself in the leg at a marina about 3 miles away and is in the hospital in stable condition, North Myrtle Beach spokeswoman Lauren Jesse said. Little River is about 20 miles northeast of Myrtle Beach. Anna Young wrote an opinion piece for the New York Post about Scott Pelley's commencement speech at Wake Forest a few weeks back. She wrote, outraged critics blast longtime 60 Minutes anchor Scott Pelley as angry and unhinged after he delivered a fear-laced tirade against President Trump during a commencement speech at Wake Forest University. The CBS newscaster warned the graduating class that insidious fear has infiltrated schools, businesses, and homes across the nation, leaving America in a state of peril, he said. He didn't always directly call out President Trump, but he spoke often of the fear of government that universities are presently operating under.
Today, great universities are threatened with ruin. So what did President Wente and Provost Gillespie do? They spoke out. They joined other institutions signing the call for constructive engagement, a declaration of the relationship between government and higher education. It reads in part, institutions of higher education share a commitment to serve as centers of open inquiry, where in their pursuit of truth, faculty, students, and staff are free to exchange ideas and opinions across a full range of viewpoints without fear. without fear of retribution, censorship, or deportation. Who are you?
Now, that was just a small clip of that. But did you notice just how angry he sounded? It's not the Scott Pelley that you typically hear on 60 Minutes. I happened to meet Scott Pelley one time on a flight. He was coming down to South Carolina. And he was a nice enough guy. But he obviously has a chip on his shoulder when it comes to President Trump. And he obviously, speaking of the situation with Harvard University and Columbia University and some of those woke universities, and fails to talk about how horrible the radicals on these campuses have become. So much so that it's not always safe for Jewish students to be on campus, for example. Students have to be careful not to express their conservative Christian values, or they'll be bullied and harassed. He failed to talk about that. Pelley said during his grandiose sermon-like speech, "Your country needs you. The country that has given you so much is calling you. The class of 2025, your country needs you, and it needs you today," he said. He said, "This morning our scared rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack, and insidious fear is reaching throughout schools, our businesses, our homes, and our private thoughts." What is he talking about? What do you think he is? What do you think he's talking about here? Obviously, the Trump administration. But how does he think that the Trump administration is attacking the universities? Yes, Donald Trump is threatening to take away hundreds of millions of dollars from Harvard University simply because they are defying the administration. They're allowing students to disrupt classes, to literally take over the campus like they did at Columbia University. That's all Trump is saying. If you allow these anti-Semitic on-campus demonstrations, literally close down the campus like they did at Columbia University, if you allow that to happen, we're not going to give you your federal funding, and they shouldn't. So what is Scott Pelley concerned about? Does he think that it's unfair that Donald Trump and the Trump administration wants to hold these universities accountable? Now, the speech was met with scattered applause. He didn't get I don't think he got a standing ovation. I didn't watch the whole thing. But you could tell, the pieces that I watched, and I watched about 10 minutes of it, and it would show the crowd. It would show the students sitting there. And they were kind of laughing and giggling at times, looking at one another, because, I don't think Wake Forest has gotten to the point that it would be considered woke. Do you? I mean, it's in a southern town in North Carolina. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone out there from Wake Forest will correct me on that. But it didn't appear to me that it was coming across the way he thought it would. It wasn't resonating with the students the way he thought it would. One user wrote on X, "Scott Pelley raged at Trump in angry, unhinged commencement address at Wake Forest as he speaks openly and freely in America." I mean, he's talking about freedom of speech being attacked. He's talking about journalism being attacked, yet he's standing there giving a commencement speech. They went on to write, "This self-important sermonizing propagandist is what passes for a legacy media journalist. Another called the liberal-leaning correspondent's speech a national disgrace." Juanita Broderick, who alleged former President Bill Clinton raped her in 1978 when she was at an Arkansas Attorney General's office, also chimed in, calling Pelley a pompous POS. Others ripped Pelley as a hypocrite, pointing out that his network, CBS, is currently facing a $20 billion lawsuit filed by Donald Trump over how 60 Minutes edited a sit-down with then Vice President and failed presidential candidate Kamala Harris last fall. Remember that? Of course, they claimed they didn't. But then the evidence is pointing otherwise. Mediation efforts to resolve the suit began earlier this month. We'll see. One user on X asked the question, Did Scott Pelley mention that 60 Minutes edited Kamala's campaign interview and they helped her answer questions? Until he does that, his credibility is zero. And that's right, isn't it? I mean, here's a guy who is there, and again, he did not directly mention Donald Trump throughout the speech, but you knew who he was talking about. You knew he was talking about the Trump administration. But yet, his network actually tried to help Kamala Harris. They tried to edit the sit down with her because they wanted her to win. They didn't want Donald Trump to win. And he says that journalism is under attack. He really is a hypocrite, isn't he? And that's what's wrong with media today. That's what is wrong with the mainstream media. That's why the American people don't trust them. I don't know who invited Scott Pelley to Wake Forest. He mentioned it early in the speech. He mentioned some professor who had been his sponsor, probably some liberal woke who has become a tenured professor and is safe with her job there. But he should have never been invited to speak. You agree? That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.